Hey everybody, welcome to our Boston Celtics breakdown here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm Dan Bespris, and we can dive right in after I remind you guys that this show is brought to you by our buddies over at FanDuel and FanDuel Sportsbook. They are presenting sponsors of Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball and all shows on the Believe Network. The Celtics. An in-between season, if ever there was one. Jason Tatum out for the year. Kristaps Porzingis traded. Drew Holiday traded. What's left? Probably a team that's a little bit better than people expect. And the guy who's going to be asked to do most of the work on this team is Jaylen Brown. So we're going to start with him in just a moment. And frankly, I guess I should give you guys who we're going to talk about. Jaylen Brown, Payton Pritchard, Anfernee Simons, Derrick White in some order. And then we're going to talk about the center spot, which is a little bit cockamamie. Please make sure that like button, that is really, really, really important. YouTubers, everybody, please subscribe however you can. That is also paramount as we try to grow this thing. All right, let's talk Jaylen Brown. So Brown coming off a 22-6-4 year, roughly. I'm rounding because I don't feel like doing the decimal points on a podcast. The pride of UC Berkeley, so I should love him, my alma mater, but I don't. And it has everything to do with the fact that he has been a drag on percentages for the better part of his playing career. He's a career 72.5% free throw shooter, career 47.8 from the field, which again approaches neutral at a lot of junctures, but never really gets him into positive land. He is obviously going to have a very large usage bump with no Jason Tatum. You're going to probably get something along the lines of 22-23 Jaylen Brown before the Celtics brought in a bunch of extra guys that could do stuff. That was when they were very much a two-headed monster. And he took 20.5 shots a game that year, averaged almost 27 points. It was, by all accounts, a pretty good year, and he shot 49% during that season. However, he continued to struggle with his foul shot at 76.5%. He's also not a massive assists guy. I expect that number will probably trend up a little bit, but also how high is it going to get? I mean, we've seen what the Celtics are when he's the primary ball handler, and they are a turnover-prone system. So you're probably going to get mostly Jaylen Brown doing just more of what he's already done without the big stat set adjustment you might expect when a team's top guy goes down. I think he's going to have a good season. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about him in a negative sense, but that's only because we know already now that his pre-rank on Yahoo is in the 20s. So you're going to have to spend a second-round pick to get your hands on Jaylen Brown this year. And when you consider the fact that in his best, most efficient fantasy season, he was number 47 in 9-cat, getting him 47 to mid-20s is a tall order. His turnovers were high that year. If you punt those, you move him from the 4th round to the 3rd round. If you got rid of free throws, you shift him from late 3rd to early 3rd. So again, we're talking about someone who likely needs to have a pretty good-sized jump in assists to get him to where his pre-rank is. On top of that, and this should be something that sort of hangs over any discussion of the Celtics, if this season goes sour for any reason, there's absolutely no incentive to push Jaylen Brown. He's signed for the better part of a half decade for like $200 million. And the Celtics have the guys that remain on this roster, at least. The core guys, they're all signed for the next 3 seasons after this one. So what if the season goes poorly? Now, I subscribe to the theory that I think the Celtics are going to accidentally win a bunch of ball games, and not like the players are not trying to win. I just think that as an organization, they'd probably be happier if they lost a crap ton of games and got themselves a good draft pick. I don't think that's going to happen because the East is weak enough, and a Jaylen Brown, Derrick White, Peyton Pritchard core with Anfernee Simons thrown in is still good enough to win probably a little less than half their ball games, which I guess should point us to our buddies over at FanDuel again. And we've talked about this on the show before. The Celtics have a regular season win total mark of 42.5. 42.5 over at FanDuel, and the under is catching a ton of wind. You got to lay a boatload to get down on the under on the Celtics right now. I think the value is starting to happen on the over. Now, 42.5 is a pretty good sized number. That's admittedly problematic because you would have thought that that number just simply wouldn't have been that high, and it is. And that takes a little bit of the sting out. If for some reason that number shifts to 41.5, which I think is probably getting close to, and then you're going to have to lay something a little closer to even money. Now you're talking about a pretty good deal. So FanDuel, they've got it at 42.5, and everybody loves the under. So think about that. On top of that, okay, forget the shutdown stuff for a minute. Jaylen Brown has been ridiculously consistent in the number of games missed he's had every year. It's almost the same. Going back to COVID year 1, so we're now talking 6 seasons, he's missed 15, 14, 16, 15, 12, and 19 games. He has nagging injuries. He has a sore knee. He has a sore back. There's these things that he nurses season over season. I don't think this is the year that he's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to go 75 games this season so we can flame out in the first or second round of the playoffs. They know they're not winning the title without Tatum. And probably 1 to 2 other useful players. This just isn't that year. So there's a lot of risk hanging over Jaylen Brown to go out and spend a second-round pick on this dude. If he was going in the 4th round, I'd have a very different tune to play on my lute. But in the 2nd round, that's going to be a no for me. Let's talk about some of the Celtics that I am a little bit more excited about. One of them is Derrick White. Now, admittedly, there's the same possible shutdown thing hanging over Derrick White that hangs over Jaylen Brown, rather. The big difference is that Derrick White played 76 games last year. When he's healthy, he's healthy. When Jaylen Brown is healthy, he's still missing a dozen ball games. When Derrick White's healthy, he's missing 5, 6 ball games. He missed 6 this year on a Celtics team that could have very easily sat him for another 2 weeks and been very much fine in their ranking in the Eastern Conference. Missed 9 last year, 0 the year before that. Season he got traded from San Antonio to Boston. He missed 7. I'm guessing 1 or 2 of those was while he was being traded. Second COVID year, he had a rough one. He missed half the season. Before that, he missed 4. First COVID year, he only missed 4 games. This dude plays. It doesn't feel like it, but he does. And every little bit more you give to Derrick White is gravy. He's taking and making a lot of 3-pointers these days. His rebounds were up this past year, and they probably go higher. The assists will likely go higher. Derrick White, which feels almost insane to say, but thinking back, like this year was a really good year for White, despite the lower field goal percent. He still was number 34. If you kind of scroll back through the Derrick White seasons, he was a late 3rd this year. He was an early 3rd last year. He was kind of a mixed bag when he was settling in the year before that. I think he was on San Antonio, if you want to go farther back than that, 2001, 22. Where were you, Derrick White? COVID year? What's the year where he got that uptick in usage? There was a nice little bump in there. Now we're looking at it. I guess we could probably find that out. So there is a very real chance that this iteration of Derrick White, the one that we saw last year, if you add Yahoo page, if you add a little more usage, so bump the assists, bump the scoring, bump field goal, free throw attempts, and leave the rest of the stuff mostly intact, you're talking about a guy that I think could be a mid-second rounder. Like, what if, and I know Anfernee Simons is coming in, and he's going to take a bunch of shots, but Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, Jason Tatum, all out. I don't care what Anfernee Simons does. It's not going to replace all of that. Give Derrick White an extra shot and a half. Go from 12.5 to 14. And then just assume that the math holds, that stuff is fairly linear from that point. That he just gets an extra 10% in most usage-based categories. 0.4, 0.5 assists, which, by the way, that'll probably be a higher jump because he's going to handle the ball more with no Tatum. But add another 1.6 points. We'll go easy on it to 18. He's an 18-point per game guy. 3.8 3-pointers, potentially. Call it 5.5 assists. Keep everything else about the same. That's a second rounder. And he's not going in the second round, ladies and gentlemen. He's going later than that because he's still Derrick White. His pre-rank is 45. I don't know how long that's going to last. I'm guessing that's going to pop up the board a little bit. But I feel like you almost got to get on this one while it's hot. This is the advantage of maybe drafting early. Big fan of Derrick White this year. I think you take the shot and you risk whatever might come of it. I just do. He's 31, and he's been durable. He should be fine. Let's go back to a guy that I'm less excited about, and that's Anfernee Simons, who's on an expiring deal for one, so I don't even know that he's going to last the season in Boston, but let's say that he does. We're talking about a build guy, which you guys know I tend to sort of gravitate away from, for better or worse. It's fine. You don't have to agree with me. Simons is just a guy that you're drafting only if you're punting field goal, because he's always going to go at a spot that measures against a team punting field goal. His pre-rank is 84 this year. Last season, he was number 110 in 9-cat. And if you're punting field goal last year, he was number 67. Almost split the difference a little bit, leaning towards the upper end of that. And I think he could get a similar usage rate in Boston to what he had in Portland. I know he's not going to be the primary, and in Portland he kind of was when he was on the court, the guy that was going to take the most shots. I'm not even sure if he's starting in Boston. He might be coming off the bench and then firing as often as he possibly can. But 15, 16 shots, he can get to that. So sure, if you want to draft him in the 80s and you're punting field goal, have at it. If you're not, I wouldn't risk it. I don't expect his assists to go up when he's not the primary point guard. He was the primary point guard on Portland for a long stretch this last year. Avdia had some point forward stretches. Remember, he wasn't even starting the entire year. Scoot came off the bench. It was Simons. Not a point guard, but that's what he was doing for stretches. He's going to score. He's going to get you threes, and he's going to get you field goal percent. He's going to ruin your field goal percent. He is your prototypical shooting guard fantasy player. And you sort of learn to take the good with the bad, which, again, that's fine. Punt field goal, sure. 7th, 8th rounder. Not. I would prefer to go deeper. The issue, of course, there is if you get to this part of your draft and you're in a punt field goal build and you're looking for points and threes still, you've probably been building your team sort of weird. So maybe you have an all bigs team and you want to round it out and effectively you're punting field goal, even though you're actually trying to win it every week. But man, that's a dent to put in it. But if you started with like a Trae Young build, what are the odds you still need Anfernee Simons at pick 84? I guess it's possible. You take a bunch of assist guys early, then you take the corresponding forwards and centers that fit that build in like the 3rd, 4th, 5th round range. And then you get to the 6th, 7th, 8th. You're like, well, I got to shore up some of the guard stuff that I want to make sure that I still get. So I guess that's where you land on Anfernee Simons. Overall, he's not really my cup of tea. I don't think he's a value play. I think he probably is ranked in the 80s in a punt field goal build this coming year. Again, you're now still have the Boston, how does the season go stuff hanging over you. You have the expiring contract stuff hanging over you. Those are minor risks that we have to mention, sort of contractually obligated to do so. And then you're left with that, which is, 3 good categories and 3 very bad ones. I don't know. It's not my jam. It's not bad, but it's not really for me. I would rather go this route. And this route is Payton Pritchard, who I think is going to get you a shooting guard type fantasy stat set. But I don't think I think there's an opportunity for him to go above and beyond that. So Pritchard is pre-ranked at 94 this year, just while we're looking at it. He averaged 14.3 points, 3.8 boards, 3.5 assists last year. And he's another guy who should see a pretty good size jump this coming season. And the beauty of the Pritchard stuff, well, for one, he's got the low turnover, so that's useful. But we haven't seen anywhere near the ceiling yet. He shot 47% from the field last year. What if that's a number that he can actually maintain? What if we see his minutes go up? We talk about all this Anfernee Simons stuff, and you're like, Dan, this is a guy who has fantasy shortcomings too. Yeah, but we haven't seen the sort of extra. This is a guy who could play 15% more with higher usage this coming year. What if you gave him 15% more time on the court? So let's just play it that way. Let's say everything went up linearly by 15%. So that's 2 extra points. That's another 0.4 three-pointers. That's another 0.5 rebounds, 0.5 assists, basically a tenth to 15/100ths of a steal. All of that stuff is great. And it pushes him from top 80 to, top 65, something like that. Maybe even a little bit better on just the 15% playing time alone. But now, tack on the fact that there's no Tatum. You replace Tatum with Simons, and you remove Porzingis and Drew Holiday from the equation, basically. And there's like 20-something shots still as yet to be grabbed. And Pritchard's going to take a few of those. So add on top of the 15% that's going to happen just from existing, how about another 10 to 15%? How about ball handling work? How about the fact that Derrick White and Payton Pritchard and Simons are probably your 3 revolving point guards? How about that? How about Pritchard gets up near 5 assists instead of 3.8 or 3.9? How about 16 points becomes 18? How about the fact that suddenly he's starting to look like Derrick White without the shot blocking? I think Peyton Pritchard, and I don't think I'm alone. I mean, he's a fantasy analyst darling at this point. But Peyton Pritchard, where he's at right now, well worth the plunge. Well worth it. 8th rounder with 4th round appeal. And again, that doesn't mean he's going to get there. But if things break right, he could. He legitimately could. This dude could hit 4 3-pointers a game this coming year, and I wouldn't be that flabbergasted. I'd be lightly flabbergasted. A mini one. A flabbergastito. So of the 4 guys that we know are going to be heavily involved for the Celtics, Jaylen Brown, Derrick White, Payton Pritchard, Anfernee Simons. I think Brown and Simons are probably going to get a bit overdrafted. And I think Pritchard and White, at least right now, are probably a little bit underdrafted. But it does kind of feel like there's something missing here. What is that damn thing that's missing? Oh, right. It's anyone to do anything in a front court. I just listed Jaylen Brown, who's a small forward at largest, Derrick White, shooting guard, Pritchard, point guard, Simons, hybrid guard. I gave you 3 guards and a small forward. Who the hell's playing power forward and center on this team? Do we even know? Is it Sam Hauser? Could be. I don't know that he's a guy you pick up anyway, but if he's playing full minutes, he's a guy that could hit 4.5 3-pointers a game and nothing else. So let's talk a little bit about who you should keep your eyes on the Celtics. And we're going to flash the tab over at Hoops Hype instead, because this has everybody's contract information on it. And that actually tells, I think, a little bit of a story. Jason Tatum, obviously the highest paid player on the Celtics, then Jaylen Brown, Derrick White, Anfernee Simons. After you get past those guys, the big whopper dune contracts, you get to Hauser at $10 million a year, Pritchard at $7 million, Chris Boucher at 3.3, Rook Hugo Gonzalez at 2.8, Baylor Shireman, second-year man, 2.6, Xavier Tillman, 2.5, Luka Garza, 2.5, and on it goes. Nemias Keita at 2.3, Jordan Walsh, 2.2. I mean, so that's a list and a half. And we're trying to figure out, basically where all the power forward and center minutes go. I'm assuming that Jaylen Brown will probably slide up and play a little power forward at times this year. But most of the power forward minutes and all of the center minutes are unaccounted for in the breakdown we've done so far. The easier of the two is center. Not easier. That's the wrong word. The easier one to say, well, who's going to get the minutes? Well, I think we can pretty well kind of localize ourselves to a few key names. Chris Boucher, who they signed to the $3 million deal. Luka Garza, who they gave a couple years to. And Neemias Queta. Those three guys are likely, Xavier Tillman's in the mix too, are likely going to be battling for the center minutes. And I have unfortunate news. I don't know that any one of them is good enough to oust the rest of them. If we could pick, Chris Boucher playing 30 minutes a game would be lovely. But we also know that his focus ability is on par with my older son. And that tends to cost him playing time. Like if you can't get consistent playing time on a Raptors tanking team, you're not going to get it on the Celtics. So he'll get some, but it won't be all. Xavier Tillman, he's just not that good. He'll be fine. He'll play some. Neemias Queta, I mean, at least there's a little bit of untapped stuff with Queta. Luka Garza, kind of a similar thing. Maybe see what we have. Initially, it seemed like maybe Luka Garza was going to be the answer, but I don't think there is a clear answer. And so it's September 5th right now, and we haven't seen any Celtics training camp or preseason games. What you do here is you don't draft a Celtics big man if you're drafting today. If you're waiting until later and you're drafting closer to the start of the season, like I prefer to do, you wait and see who starts their preseason games, and maybe you give that player a look with your very last pick. But look, guys and gals, odds are on a Celtics team that's hunting, it's going to be 22 minutes for one guy and 20 minutes for another and 6 minutes for a third, and it's going to rotate. Because again, none of these guys is that good. We've seen Queta go on little stretches before. Queta's been okay for little stretches. Luka Garza, we know, is a rebounds and points guy. So maybe that's the answer with floor spacing. We don't know today. I would be very surprised to see Chris Boucher in the starting lineup. It feels like it's going to be Garza or Queta. But again, it could also be Tillman. He could pop up. We just don't know for sure. So pay close attention to the Celtics. There might be kind of a diamond in the rough thing hiding here. It's, again, once we know who's starting, it's probably worth grabbing that player with your last pick. But just know, high probability, 80 to 100%, somewhere in that range, you will be dropping that player when they get completely inconsistent playing time. And one day you'll see Luka Garza get 29 minutes and go, yes, it's the time. And then he's going to play 9 the next ball game. And then Queta's going to get 25. And you're like, oh, this is interesting. And then he's going to play 11 the game after that. And it's going to go like this. I feel pretty confident of that. Be ready if anybody somehow laps the field. Just don't expect it. Your better odds are looking to see who starts at power forward. I don't think they're going to go Pritchard, Simons, White, and Brown. That's a microscopic bottom four of your, not bottom four, but small four on your lineup. I think they probably, my guess would be bring Simons off the bench, start someone like a Sam Hauser, unless they want to go tougher. But we saw last year they were more than willing to start Hauser when one of the non-point guard players was out. And also Al Horford wasn't available, or Porzingis wasn't available. So I would say Hauser is probably your safer bet of who of these guys should you throw at the end of your roster. The problem with Sam Hauser, of course, is his fantasy game is incredibly limited. He's a monster at three-point shooting when he gets out there and really cuts it loose. But you're going to need to get those, 28 minutes a game to get him there. You get him to 28 minutes a game, he's going to take 8, 9, 10 three-pointers a night. And that alone is probably enough to get you where you want to be. But, and here, we can share the Sam Hauser tab so you guys can look in on what we're doing here. And here, how far do I have to zoom out for you guys to see the box scores? Apparently infinitely far. What are we doing here, Yahoo? Let's get this thing straightened out. The zoom is not helping. You can see, he had a 20.5 rebound game with 6 3-pointers. That's good. But he doesn't pass. He doesn't get steals. He doesn't get blocks. He doesn't shoot free throws. It's all 3-pointers. Threes are bust on Hauser. So, yeah, I mean, sure, if you wanted to take him as like a third or fourth tier of flyer types, because what if he gets to play a consistent 27, 28 minutes a game this year? I don't think he's going to, but if he does, then you can get 4+ threes out of somebody. Sure, there's an inherent value in that. But don't expect more than 4. Like, even in a good scenario, you're talking about 4 threes and 4 rebounds. And I don't know. Well, at least 12 points, because if he's hitting 4 threes, it's going to have to be 12 points. 14, 15 points would be probably the upper limit. Not dead in the water, but also not exciting. All right, that's a look at your Celtics as we try to get through the final 5 teams here on our team-by-team breakdown. I'm waiting a long time on Philadelphia, kind of hoping that we get any kind of health update on Joel Embiid, but odds are we probably won't. We'll get to the next team, the Knicks, the Nets, the Raps, one of those 3, soon. I don't know. There's draft stuff to do, so it's hard for me to wedge in these team breakdown shows. But I'll get to it. Don't worry. You guys asked me to try to finish them up, so damn it, I'll try to finish him up. For now, go get Payton Pritchard. Go get Derrick White. Hope they don't get shut down. Reap the rewards. It'll be fun for all parties involved. I am Dan Vespris. Please subscribe on your way out. Love you guys. If you make it to this part of the show, you have to subscribe. That's the rule. Follow on Twitter at Dan Vespris, DANBESBRIS. Rate, review, like, all that good stuff. That's it. I don't even know when this show is airing anymore. There's so much stuff dropping on the Old Man Squad YouTube page. I don't even know when things are airing as I record them. Some producer I am, but Maddie G's got a show that needs to go out. Noah's got a show that needs to go out. So you'll see me when you see me. Peace.